She had $20 left to her name. $20 between her and an empty stomach. Between her and a bus ride home. Between her and the eviction notice waiting on her kitchen counter. But when she saw him, a man so broken he couldn't even lift his head, she knelt down and placed that money in his hands anyway. She thought she was helping a homeless man survive one more night. She had no idea she just touched the most dangerous man in Koreatown. A mafia boss with a death list. A vengeful ghost hunting the men who murdered his sister. And she had just become the first person in 3 years to make his hands stop shaking. This is the story of a woman who gave everything she had to a stranger, and the monster who decided she was the only thing worth living for. 3 days earlier, Sarah Coleman sat on a bare mattress in an apartment that used to feel like home. Now it felt like a crime scene. The drawers hung open, empty. The closet door swung on its hinges. Bare hangers. The jewelry box her grandmother left her, gone. And on the kitchen counter, a note written in handwriting she used to love. "I'm sorry. I needed a fresh start. You'll be fine. You're strong. Marcus." She read it 3 times before she understood. 3 years. She had given Marcus 3 years. Her savings account. Her trust. Her belief that love was something you could build with someone who promised to stay. He left with $11,000 from their joint account. Her grandmother's ring. Her faith in her own judgment. He left her with a lease she couldn't afford and 14 days before eviction. Sarah didn't cry. She had cried for 2 days straight. Now she was empty, a hollowed-out version of herself moving through motions she didn't feel. She picked up her phone. One notification. Eviction notice. You have 14 days to vacate or remit payment in full. She laughed. The kind of laugh that sounds like breaking glass. Then she stood up, smoothed her diner uniform, and went to work. Because that's what you do when the world takes everything. You clock in anyway. The 24-hour diner on 6th Street was the kind of place people came to when they had nowhere else to go. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Grease hung in the air like a second atmosphere. The regulars were night shift workers, insomniacs, and people running from something they couldn't name. Sarah moved between tables with mechanical precision. Smile on, eyes hollow. Refilling coffee cups, clearing plates, pretending she wasn't drowning. Her coworker Nina caught her in the back during a slow moment. "Girl." Nina grabbed her arm. "You look like you haven't slept in a week." "Sleep costs peace," Sarah muttered, counting her tips. "I'm fresh out." "Marcus." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Don't say that name in here. This is the only place I have left." Nina's face softened. "How bad is it?" 14 days. $800. 27 in tips so far tonight. Sarah laughed bitterly. "You do the math. What about your brother, Isaiah? His custody hearing is in 5 days. If I lose this apartment, I lose any chance of getting him out of that group home." Sarah shoved the money back into her apron. "So I'm not losing this apartment." She walked back onto the floor before Nina could respond. Mr. Park, the manager, stopped her near the register. "Sarah, you've pulled doubles every day this week. Go home." "Home is just a countdown now, Mr. Park. I'd rather be useful." He studied her face, the exhaustion carved into it like stone. "1 more hour," he said quietly. "Then you leave." "That's not a request." She nodded once and got back to work. 11:47 p.m. Sarah pushed through the diner's back door into the cold. The alley smelled like damp garbage and exhaust from the street. A single streetlight flickered overhead, buzzing like a dying insect. She pulled her coat tighter. The fabric was too thin for this weather, but she couldn't afford a new one. Hadn't been able to afford one for 2 winters now. She was halfway to the street when she saw him. A man sat slumped against the wall near the dumpsters. Hood pulled low, clothes torn and filthy. His body trembled, not from the cold, from something deeper. Sarah stopped. She knew that tremble, recognized it in her bones. She had seen it in her mother after her father walked out. Seen it in herself 3 nights ago when she realized Marcus was never coming back. That wasn't shivering. That was a body trying to hold itself together when the soul inside had already shattered. She stepped closer. Hey! No response. He didn't move, didn't acknowledge her existence. Hey! She said again, softer. You okay? Nothing. His shoulders stayed hunched. His face stayed hidden. Sarah crouched down slowly, keeping her distance but close enough to be heard. When's the last time you ate? Still nothing. I'm not asking to be polite, she said. I'm asking because I know what it looks like when someone's given up. His fingers twitched. First sign of life. She waited. The cold bit at her cheeks. Her knees ached against the concrete. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out her last $20. She stared at it. This was her bus fare for the week. Her lunch money for 3 days. Her margin between surviving and sinking. She thought about the eviction notice, the custody hearing, the empty refrigerator waiting for her at home. Then she looked at the man in front of her, a stranger who couldn't even lift his head, and she folded the bill carefully. She placed it in his shaking hand. I don't know what you lost, she whispered, but you're still here. That has to mean something. She stood up, brushed off her knees, and pulled her coat tighter. Get something warm tomorrow, she said, and don't disappear. The world forgets people who disappear. Then she walked away. She didn't look back. If she looked back, she might change her mind. And she couldn't afford to be that kind of person, the kind who only helped when it was easy. She disappeared around the corner. She had no idea what she had just set in motion. The alley went silent. For a long moment, the man didn't move. He sat there, holding the crumpled $20 bill like it was something holy. Then, slowly, he lifted his head. Kang Jae-sun. Sharp jaw, hollow eyes, a face carved by years of violence, loss, and cold calculation. Mid-30s, but his eyes looked ancient, like they had witnessed things that aged the soul faster than time. He stared at the money in his hand. A memory flickered, unbidden, unwelcome, a different hand placing money in his palm. Smaller, softer. His sister's hand years ago, when he was young and broke and too proud to ask for help. Take it, Mi-young had said. You don't have to do everything alone. She was dead now, 3 years in the ground. And tonight, a stranger had touched him the same way, given him something she couldn't afford to lose, spoken to him like he was worth saving. Jae-sun closed his fist around the bill. Headlights cut through the alley. A black SUV rolled to a stop. 2 men in dark suits stepped out, moving with the quiet precision of soldiers. The first approached and bowed slightly. Boss, we've located Director Hwan. He's at the Meridian Hotel until Thursday. Jae-sun stood. Beneath the torn clothes, his frame was solid. Beneath the grime, his shirt was tailored fabric. On his wrist, a steel watch worth more than most people's cars. And on his forearm, a tattoo. A serpent coiled around a white flower, the symbol of the Kang Syndicate. Good, Jae-sun said. His voice was low, cold, utterly controlled. You've been out here 4 hours. The second man, Moon, his lieutenant, said carefully. People are asking questions. Let them ask. Moon hesitated. Who was the woman? Jae-sun didn't answer immediately. He looked toward the corner where Sarah had disappeared. Her words echoed in his skull. The world forgets people who disappear. Someone who still believes in mercy, he finally said. That's dangerous, Moon replied. For her. Jae-sun tucked the $20 into his pocket like a man holstering a weapon. Or for me. He walked toward the SUV, paused at the door. Find out everything about her. Where she lives. Where she works. Who broke her? Moon's eyebrows lifted. Broke her? Her eyes. Jae-sun's jaw tightened. They look like mine did, before I burned it all down. He climbed into the car. The door shut. The SUV pulled away, swallowed by the city's darkness. And somewhere across town, Sarah Coleman walked home alone, unaware that she had just become the obsession of a man who had nothing left to lose. The Kang Syndicate's underground office was a study in contradictions. Minimalist, expensive, cold. Glass desk, white walls, No photographs. No warmth. A room designed for decisions that ended lives. Jason sat behind the desk, fingers steepled, eyes fixed on the folder Moon had placed before him. Sarah Coleman. Age, 26. Occupation, waitress, 2 jobs, no stable income. Family, mother deceased, father unknown. 1 brother, Isaiah Coleman, 17, currently in foster care. Subject is fighting for custody. Recent history, engaged to Marcus Tate for 3 years. Tate emptied joint account, $11,000, and fled 4 days ago. Subject now facing eviction. Hearing for brother's custody in 5 days. Jason read the file twice. Then a third time. She had given him her last $20 while drowning. While losing everything. While fighting to save her brother from a system designed to swallow kids like him whole. She's nobody, boss, Moon said from across the room. No connections to our world. No leverage. No value. That's exactly why she matters. Moon frowned. I don't understand. Jason pulled the $20 from his pocket, placed it on the glass desk like an artifact. 3 years, he said quietly. 3 years since Myung died. 3 years of hunting. 3 years of blood. And in all that time, every deal, every threat, every alliance. No one has touched me without wanting something. He stared at the bill. She knelt in a freezing alley and gave a stranger her last dollar because she couldn't stand watching someone suffer. Moon said nothing. That's not nobody, Jason continued. That's the rarest thing in this city. Silence stretched between them. And Director Juan? Moon finally asked. The meeting is Thursday. Everything is in place. Jason's expression hardened. The warmth, if it could be called that, vanished. Juan dies Thursday. That hasn't changed. But something in his voice had. Moon noticed. He always noticed. He just didn't know what it meant yet. The next evening, Sarah stepped out of the diner at the end of her shift, exhausted to her bones. Then she froze. The homeless man was back. But he wasn't slumped anymore. He wasn't shaking. He stood across the street, leaning against a lamppost, wearing a clean black coat. His posture was straight. His presence was unsettling, the kind of stillness that made you want to cross to the other side of the road. He was watching her. Sarah's pulse quickened. Every instinct told her to walk away, to pretend she didn't see him, to disappear into the crowd. Instead, she crossed the street. You came back, she said. I needed to return something. He held out an envelope. She took it carefully, opened it. Her $20. And beneath it, 5 crisp $100 bills. I can't take this, she said immediately. You gave me something money can't buy. His voice was different now, low, controlled, almost hypnotic. This is just paper. We're not even. We're not anything. She held the envelope back toward him. I don't even know your name. A pause. Something flickered behind his eyes. Jay, he said. Jay. She tested the name. Just Jay. For now. She studied him, really studied him. The posture. The precision of his movements. The way his eyes scanned the street like a soldier expecting contact. You're not homeless, she said. No. Then what were you doing in that alley? Remembering what it felt like to have nothing. The answer hit her somewhere unexpected. She had braced for a lie. The truth was worse. Why were you shaking? She asked quietly. And don't lie. I saw it. Long silence. Car passed. The neon sign above the diner buzzed. Because I was about to do something I can't undo, he said finally. And your voice stopped me. Her breath caught. What does that mean? He didn't answer. Instead, he nodded toward the envelope still in her hands. Take it. Not as payment. As proof. Proof of what? That some debts are worth more than money. She stared at him. At the envelope. At the strangeness of this moment. A man who had been broken now standing before her like something carved from stone. I should go, she said. You should. But he didn't move. Neither did she. Will I see you again? She asked, then immediately regretted it. Something softened in his expression. Just a fraction. Just enough to notice. That depends, he said. On whether you want to. She didn't answer. She turned and walked toward the bus stop, heart pounding for reasons she couldn't name. She didn't look back. But she kept the envelope. 2 days passed. Sarah worked double shifts, counted her money, called the custody lawyer, tried to pretend her life wasn't unraveling thread by thread. On the third morning, she came home to find her apartment door slightly open. Her heart stopped. She pushed the door slowly, stepped inside. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was broken. Everything was exactly where she left it, except for one thing. A photograph sat on her kitchen table. A photograph of her, leaving the diner, standing next to Jay. She picked it up with trembling hands, turned it over. On the back, written in red marker, "Stay away from Kang Jae-sun, or you disappear like his sister." The words blurred. Her hands shook. Kang Jae-sun. She had heard that name before, whispered in the diner, muttered by men who looked over their shoulders when they said it. A ghost story. A warning. If you see the serpent tattoo, don't make eye contact. Don't speak. Don't exist. Sarah grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. The man in the alley. The man who gave her $500. The man whose eyes looked like they had seen things that should have killed him. He wasn't just dangerous. He was the danger. And now, because of one act of kindness, she was standing in the middle of his war. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered, voice shaking. Hello? Sarah. His voice. Jay's voice. Calm. Controlled. But beneath it, something urgent. How did you get my number? The same people who left that photograph know where you live. They know about your brother. They know about the custody hearing. Her blood ran cold. What? I need you to listen to me carefully. Do not leave your apartment. Do not answer the door for anyone. I'm sending someone to... No. She cut him off. No. You don't get to do this. You don't get to show up in my life, make me care about you, and then care about me? She stopped. The words had slipped out before she could catch them. Silence on the line. Heavy. Electric. Sarah. His voice softened barely, but enough. I never meant to put you in danger. But you did. Yes. No excuse. No justification. Just truth. And now I need to get you out of it. Why? Why do you care what happens to me? Another pause. Longer this time. Because you're the first person in 3 years who looked at me like I was human. Her chest tightened. Her eyes burned. What do you want me to do? She whispered. There's a car outside your building. Black sedan. My men. They'll take you somewhere safe until this is over. And if I don't go? Then the people who killed my sister will have a new target. The line went dead. Sarah stood frozen. Phone pressed to her ear, heart hammering against her ribs. She walked to the window. Looked down. A black sedan sat at the curb. 2 men in suits stood beside it, watching the building. Waiting for her. She looked at the photograph in her hand. At the threat written in red. She thought about Isaiah. About the hearing. About everything she had left to lose. Then she grabbed her bag and walked out the door. The sedan's interior smelled like leather and something else. Something cold. Clinical. The scent of a world she didn't belong in. Sarah sat in the back seat, clutching her bag like a lifeline. The 2 men in front hadn't spoken a word since she got in. They moved through the city like shadows, taking turns she didn't recognize, heading somewhere she couldn't name. 20 minutes later, the car stopped in front of a house. Not a mansion, not a warehouse, just a house, modern, secluded, surrounded by trees that blocked it from the road. One of the men opened her door. Inside. He's waiting. She stepped out on shaking legs. The front door opened before she reached it. And there he was. Jae-sun stood in the doorway, dressed simply. Black shirt, dark pants. But his presence filled the space like something physical. Something heavy. You came, he said. Did I have a choice? There's always a choice. He stepped aside to let her pass. You chose to trust me. I chose to survive. She walked past him, heart racing. Don't confuse the two. The door closed behind her. She was inside now, inside his world. And she had no idea how deep that world went. The house was cold. Beautiful but cold, all glass and sharp angles like a place designed for thinking, not living. Sarah stood in the center of the living room, arms crossed, defensive. Jason kept his distance, leaned against the far wall, gave her space. Ask, he said. Ask what? Whatever you need to ask. I won't lie to you. She laughed bitterly. A mafia boss who doesn't lie. That's a first. I didn't say I don't lie. I said I won't lie to you. She studied his face, searched for the trap, couldn't find it. The photograph, she said. It mentioned your sister. What happened to her? His jaw tightened. The mask slipped, just for a moment. And she saw something raw beneath it. Something broken. Mi Young, he said quietly. She was 24. A nurse. She worked at a free clinic in Koreatown. The kind of place people go when they can't afford anywhere else. Sarah waited. 3 years ago, she found something she wasn't supposed to find. Financial records. Proof that a man named Director Juan was laundering money through the hospital system. Millions. She reported it to the wrong person. His voice flattened. The emotion drained away, leaving only cold. They found her in the river 3 days later. Sarah's chest ached. I'm so sorry. Don't be. Sorry doesn't bring her back. He looked at her directly. Only blood does. Is that why you were in that alley? The night I found you? Yes. You were going to kill someone? Yes. And I stopped you? Yes. She swallowed hard. Why? Why did I stop you? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different. Softer, almost fragile. Because you knelt in the cold and gave me your last $20 like I was worth saving. And I realized. He stopped. Started again. I realized I couldn't remember the last time someone touched me without wanting something. Without fear. Tears burned at the edges of her eyes. She blinked them back. You were going to kill someone, she repeated. And now you've put a target on my back. The target was already there. The moment I looked at you too long. The moment they realized He stopped. Realized you what? She pressed. He didn't answer. Realized you what, Jay? His eyes met hers. Dark, intense, devastatingly honest. That I would burn this entire city to keep you safe. The words hung in the air between them. Heavy, impossible, terrifying. Sarah's breath caught. She should run. She should demand to leave. She should want nothing to do with this man and his blood-soaked world. But she didn't move. Because somewhere beneath the fear, beneath the logic, beneath everything telling her to flee, she believed him. The silence after his words was suffocating. I would burn this entire city to keep you safe. Sarah stood frozen, heart slamming against her ribs like it wanted to escape. Every rational thought screamed at her to run, to get out of this house, to forget she ever knelt in that alley and gave a stranger her last $20. But her feet wouldn't move. You can't say things like that, she finally whispered. Why not? Because I don't know how to exist in a world where someone like you says things like that to someone like me. Jason pushed off the wall, took one step toward her. Just one. Someone like you, he repeated. You mean someone good? I mean someone ordinary. There's nothing ordinary about you. She shook her head. You don't know me. I know you work 16-hour shifts to keep a roof over your head. I know you're fighting a legal system designed to crush people like you just to save your brother. I know your fiancé stole everything you had. And instead of becoming bitter, you knelt in a freezing alley and gave a stranger your last $1. He took another step. I know your hands were shaking when you gave me that money. And I know you did it anyway. Tears burned her eyes. She blinked them back furiously. That's not special, she said. That's just human. No. His voice dropped. That's rare. That's the rarest thing in this world. And men like me, we destroy rare things. We consume them. We ruin them without meaning to. Then why am I here? Because I'm trying. His jaw tightened. For the first time in 3 years, I'm trying to protect something instead of destroy it. She stared at him, at the war playing out behind his eyes. Your sister, she said quietly. Mi-young. What would she think? If she saw you now? The question hit him like a bullet. He turned away, walked to the window, stared out at nothing. She would be ashamed, he said finally. She would look at what I've become and she wouldn't recognize me. Then why do it? Why become this? Because the men who killed her are still breathing. His reflection in the glass was hollow, haunted. And every day they breathe is a day her death means nothing. Sarah stepped closer, slowly, carefully. Or, she said softly, every day you chase revenge is a day you forget who she raised you to be. He turned. Their eyes met. She didn't raise a killer, Jay. She raised her brother. And I think, Sarah swallowed, I think he's still in there somewhere, buried under all this blood and pain. His composure cracked. Just a fraction. Just enough. You don't know what you're asking me to do. I'm not asking you to do anything. She reached out, touched his arm. Felt him flinch like he'd forgotten what gentle contact felt like. I'm asking you to remember who you were, before all this. He stared at her hand on his arm, at the impossible warmth of it. And if I can't, he whispered, then at least you tried. And that's more than most people ever do. The moment shattered. Sarah's phone buzzed violently in her pocket. She pulled it out. Unknown number, but she recognized the area code. The foster care office. She answered immediately. Hello? Miss Coleman? This is Detective Reyes. I'm calling about your brother, Isaiah. Her blood turned to ice. What happened? Is he okay? He's fine. He's at the precinct. But we picked him up 30 minutes ago, running from 2 men who were asking questions about you. What kind of questions? Where you work, where you live, who you've been seen with recently. The detective paused. Miss Coleman, I don't know what's going on, but these weren't ordinary people. One of them had a tattoo on his neck. A serpent. Sarah's knees buckled. Jason caught her before she hit the floor. I'll be there in 20 minutes, she said, voice shaking. Don't let anyone near him. She hung up, looked at Jason with wild eyes. They found my brother. His expression went cold. The softness vanished. Something lethal settled into his features. Juan's people, he said. Not a question. They were asking about me, about who I've been seen with. Her voice cracked. He's 17, Jay. He's a kid. And now he's sitting in a police station because of me. She didn't deny it. Couldn't. Jason pulled out his phone. Dialed. Moon. The brother. Isaiah Coleman. He's at the Koreatown precinct. I want lawyers there in 10 minutes. Get him out clean. No traces back to us. He hung up. I have to go, Sarah said, grabbing her bag. If you leave this house, they'll find you. If I don't leave, they already have him. She moved toward the door. He blocked her path. Move, she said. Let me handle this. Handle it how? With guns? With threats? Her voice rose. He's a child, Jay. He needs his sister. Not a mafia rescue. And if you walk out there and they take you? His voice hardened. What happens to him then? She stopped. The logic cut through her panic like a blade. I can't lose him, she whispered. He's all I have left. You won't. You can't promise that. I can. He stepped closer. Close enough that she could feel the heat of him. Because anyone who touches him answers to me. And the last person who threatened what was mine is buried in 3 different locations. She should have been horrified. She should have run. Instead, she looked into his eyes and saw something she didn't expect. Fear. Not for himself. For her. Okay, she breathed. Okay, but I'm coming with your people. I'm not staying here while my brother. You'll stay in the car. Out of sight. Non-negotiable. She wanted to argue, but she saw the steel in his expression. Fine. He nodded once, then did something that surprised them both. He took her hand, squeezed it gently. I'm going to fix this, he said quietly. I swear to you. And for reasons she couldn't explain, she believed him. The black sedan pulled up outside the Koreatown precinct. Sarah sat in the back, heart pounding, watching through tinted windows as two men in expensive suits walked through the front doors. Jason's lawyers. Clean, professional, untraceable. 15 minutes later, Isaiah walked out. He looked scared, confused, young, so impossibly young. Sarah was out of the car before anyone could stop her. Isaiah! He saw her. Relief flooded his face. He ran. She caught him in her arms, holding him so tight she could feel his heartbeat against her chest. I'm okay, he said. I'm okay. But those men, Sarah, they weren't cops. They were. I know. She pulled back, gripping his shoulders. I know, and I'm going to explain everything. But right now, we need to go. Isaiah's eyes drifted past her, to Jason, who stood beside the sedan, watching. That's him, isn't it? Isaiah said quietly. The guy they were asking about. Sarah didn't answer. Sarah. Isaiah's voice hardened, older than his years. Who is he? Someone who's trying to help. He looks like the kind of person who doesn't help anyone without a reason. She turned to look at Jason. At the tension in his posture, the barely contained violence simmering beneath his calm. He has a reason, she said quietly. He just hasn't figured out what it is yet. Back at the safe house, the tension was suffocating. Isaiah sat on the couch, arms crossed, glaring at Jason like he was trying to set him on fire with his eyes alone. Jason stood by the window, silent, watchful. Sarah stood between them, exhausted. Someone want to tell me what's going on? Isaiah demanded. Because those men had tattoos. The same tattoos I've seen on guys who don't play around. It's complicated, Sarah said. Uncomplicated. Jason spoke before she could. 3 years ago, my sister was murdered by a man named Director Juan. I've spent every day since hunting him and the people who helped him. Isaiah's eyes widened. Your sister found evidence of his crimes, Jason continued. She reported it. They silenced her. And because I've been tracking him, because I got too close, he's now using your sister to draw me out. So this is your fault, Isaiah said flatly. Yes. The honesty caught Isaiah off guard. He'd expected deflection. Excuses. Isaiah, Sarah said softly. It's not that simple, isn't it? Isaiah stood, looked at Jason with something between hatred and grudging respect. You're some kind of… what? Gangster? Mafia? Yes. And you dragged my sister into your world because… why? Because she was nice to you one time. Because she was the first person in 3 years who looked at me like I was human. Isaiah blinked. The anger flickered. That's a trash reason to put someone in danger, he said. You're right. So what are you going to do about it? Jason turned to face him fully. Something shifted in his expression, respect, maybe, for a 17-year-old who wasn't backing down. I'm going to end it, Jason said. Juan, his operation, all of it. By killing him, I was going to. Jason glanced at Sarah. But I'm trying something different. Isaiah followed his gaze, looked at his sister, back at Jason. She makes you want to be better, Isaiah said quietly. Doesn't she? Jason didn't answer. He didn't have to. And that, my beautiful souls, is where I need to pause for a moment. Because I need you to understand what just happened. A 17-year-old boy just looked a mafia boss in the eye and asked the question no one else had the courage to ask. What are you going to do about it? And the monster didn't flinch. He didn't threaten. He didn't lie. He admitted the truth, that one woman's kindness made him want to become something other than a weapon. If you're watching this in the middle of the night, heart pounding, whispering at your screen, I see you, and I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, because this story is about to catch fire, and I refuse to let you miss what happens next. Ready? Let's keep going. Later that night, Sarah found Jae-sun on the back porch, staring at the darkness. She sat beside him, said nothing for a long moment. "Thank you," she finally said, "for getting Isaiah out. It was my fault he was there in the first place. Maybe, but you fixed it. That counts for something." He shook his head slowly. "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Be someone worth your faith." He turned to look at her. "Every instinct I have says to find Juan tonight and put a bullet in his skull. End this the way I know how. But then I think about what you said. About Myung. About who she raised me to be." His voice cracked. "Barely, but enough. And I don't want to prove you wrong." Sarah reached over, took his hand. "Then don't. It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because if I let him live, if I expose him instead of executing him, he might survive it. He might walk free. And my sister's death will mean nothing. Or," she squeezed his hand, "you bring him down publicly. You destroy everything he built. You make the whole world see what he really is. And your sister's death becomes the reason a monster lost everything." He stared at her. "That's not justice," he said. "No, it's better." She held his gaze. "Justice is a bullet. Legacy is watching your empire burn while you're still alive to feel it." Something shifted in his eyes. Something dark giving way to something almost like hope. "You really believe that?" "I believe you're capable of more than murder." She leaned closer. "I believe Myung would want her brother back. Not her avenger." He closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. "If I do this, if I try your way, there's no guarantee it works. There never is. And if it doesn't, then you do what you have to do. But at least you tried. At least you gave her memory something other than blood." He was quiet for a long time. Then he lifted her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles gently. "Okay," he whispered. "For you. For her. I'll try." 3 days later it began. Documents flooded every major news outlet in the city. Financial records, testimonies, video evidence. Everything Jae-sun had gathered in 3 years of hunting, released simultaneously to journalists, prosecutors, and federal investigators. Director Hwan's face was everywhere. His bank accounts frozen. His investors fleeing. His political allies suddenly unable to remember his name. Sarah watched the coverage from the safe house, Isaiah beside her, both of them glued to the screen. Breaking: Director Hwan arrested on charges of money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Isaiah let out a breath. "Holy shit, he actually did it." "Language," Sarah murmured, but she was smiling, crying. Both. The door opened. Jae-sun walked in. He looked different, lighter, like a weight had been lifted. Sarah stood, crossed to him. "It worked," she said. "It worked. How do you feel?" He considered the question. Really considered it. "Empty," he admitted, but not bad empty. Like something that was rotting finally got cleaned out. She took his hands. "That's healing. Feels wrong at first, but it's healing." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His expression flickered. "What?" Sarah asked. "Moon. He's in the hospital." "What happened?" "During the document extraction, one of Hwan's people found our team. There was a firefight. Moon took a bullet protecting one of my men. The air changed. Is he okay?" "He's alive, but they don't know if he'll walk again." Sarah's chest tightened. This was the cost. This was what choosing differently looked like. "Jay, don't." His voice was rough. "Don't tell me it's not my fault. It is. If I had killed Hwan months ago, Moon would be fine. Or you would be dead. Or I would be dead. Or Isaiah." She gripped his hands tighter. "We can't know what would have happened. We only know what did. And what did happen is that a monster is in handcuffs and you're still standing." He looked at her. The pain in his eyes was almost unbearable. "Moon might never walk again. Because I chose mercy. Moon is alive. Because you chose mercy." She stepped closer. "There's always a cost, Jay. but you get to decide what you're paying for. You see that? That's the part they don't tell you about redemption. It still costs. It still bleeds. The difference is you get to live with the wound instead of becoming one. Jason didn't get a fairy tale. He got reality. Messy, painful, imperfect reality. And sometimes that's worth more than any clean ending ever could be. Drop a comment below. Tell me, was it worth it? Should he have killed Juan? Or did choosing mercy mean something more? I want to hear your voice in this story. Now, let me show you where it ends. 1 week later, Sarah stood on the courthouse steps, heart in her throat. Isaiah was beside her. The custody papers were in her hand. Official, legal, final. We did it, Isaiah said, stunned. We actually did it. We did. She hugged him fiercely, let the tears fall. When she pulled back, she looked across the street. Jason stood there. Simple coat. No guards. No entourage. Just him. Isaiah noticed. He came. Yeah. He looks different. He is different. Isaiah was quiet for a moment. Then go talk to him. I'll wait. Sarah crossed the street. Jason watched her approach. Something vulnerable in his expression. Something hopeful. You won, he said. We won. She stopped in front of him. How's Moon? Physical therapy starts next week. Doctors say he might regain partial mobility. That's good. It's something. Silence. But not uncomfortable. Just heavy with unspoken things. What happens now? She asked. I'm stepping away. From all of it. The organization, the name, the life. Where will you go? I don't know. Somewhere I can learn to be someone else. That sounds lonely. It does. She looked at him. At this man who had been a ghost, a monster, a king of shadows, now standing before her with nothing but hope in his eyes. Isaiah and I are moving, she said. New apartment. New start. It's small, but it's ours. That sounds right. There's a mechanic shop on the corner. They're hiring. He blinked. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a reason to stay. The words hung between them. After everything I brought into your life? He asked quietly. You didn't bring anything I couldn't handle. She stepped closer. I was already drowning, Jay. You just reminded me I didn't have to drown alone. He reached out, touched her face. Gentle, reverent. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Probably not. She smiled through tears. But I'm offering anyway. He kissed her. Not like a mafia boss. Not like a man claiming territory. Like a man who had finally found something worth living for. The apartment was small, warm, full of noise and life. Sarah hummed while she cooked, the smell of cornbread filling the kitchen. Isaiah sat at the table, textbooks spread out, complaining about calculus. The front door opened. Jason walked in, grease on his hands, mechanic's uniform wrinkled. He looked tired, happy. Honey, I'm home, he said dryly. Isaiah snorted. You're not funny. I'm hilarious. You smell like an engine. That's the smell of honest work. Sarah laughed, turning from the stove. Jason crossed to her, wrapped his arms around her waist, pressed a kiss to her temple. How was your day? She asked. Good. Fixed 4 cars. Only threatened 1 customer. Jay. I'm kidding. He paused. Mostly. She swatted his arm. He grinned, an expression she never got tired of seeing. He reached into his pocket, pulled out something worn and soft, a $20 bill, the same one, kept for a year, carried every day. I've been holding on to this, he said quietly, trying to figure out what to do with it. Sarah's breath caught. Jay! He pressed the bill into her palm, and beneath it a ring. Simple, beautiful, perfect. You gave me this when you had nothing, he said. You didn't know who I was, didn't know what I'd done. You just saw someone broken and decided I was worth saving. Tears streamed down her face. I want to spend the rest of my life earning that moment, he continued. Not because I deserve you, but because you made me believe I could try. Isaiah looked up from his textbook. His eyes were suspiciously wet. Say yes already, he muttered. I can't focus with all this emotion. Sarah laughed through her tears, looked at Jason. This man who had been a monster, a ghost, a shadow, now standing before her with his heart in his hands. Yes, she whispered. He slid the ring onto her finger, kissed her softly. Isaiah groaned. Okay, that's my cue to leave. Stay, Sarah said. This is your family too. Isaiah paused at the door, looked back at them. His sister, happy for the first time in years. The man who had become something like a brother. Yeah, he said quietly. I guess it is. 1 year ago, I gave away my last $20. I was broke, heartbroken, drowning, and I saw a man in an alley who looked like he was drowning too. I didn't know he was a mafia boss. Didn't know he was planning a murder. Didn't know he was 1 kill away from becoming the monster everyone said he was. I just saw someone shaking in the cold and decided he was worth $20 I couldn't spare. That's the thing about kindness. It doesn't ask who you're saving. It just saves. And sometimes, if you're lucky, it saves you right back. And that, my midnight hearts, is where we leave Sarah and Jason. She was broke, betrayed, and barely surviving. He was a ghost made of grief and vengeance. And a crumpled $20 bill became the bridge between two people who had forgotten what it felt like to be worth loving. If the story made your chest tight, if you held your breath waiting for them to make it, if you fell just a little bit in love with a vengeful king who learned to put down his sword, then you belong here. Hit subscribe. Tap that notification bell like it owes you money. And drop a comment below telling me, do you want part 2? Should we see the wedding? Meet the enemies who might come back? Watch Isaiah grow up in Jason's shadow? Tell me. Your comments don't just support this channel, they write the next story. Thank you for staying until the end. Thank you for believing in messy, imperfect, complicated love, the kind that bleeds before it heals. And remember, some love stories start with roses and romance. Ours start with empty pockets, broken souls, and a stranger brave enough to kneel in the cold. Until next time, stay soft when the world tells you to harden. Stay open when everything screams at you to close. And never underestimate what $20 and a little mercy can do. See you in the next one, beautiful souls.